So cars out on the racetrack. We understand Charles Robin, as we called him yesterday, is a driver of French heritage. So it is Charles Robin who took that win yesterday, 1.4 seconds ahead of Austin Riley, as we had a very tight three-car battle coming to the checkered flag. Alan Shaw, who was third, was just 2.266 seconds back in the number 3 spot. So cars out on the racetrack, everybody up on the Michelin tires, and I don't know, it's a bit of a gamble. Do you go with the slicks? Because the track is supposed to dry out. David Bradley has joined us here in the broadcast booth. David, what do you know about tire selection for the second race here for the FEL Radical Cup Invitational?
At this point, I believe everybody's going to go out on slicks because the track should dry very, very shortly. It's a little damp right now, so that'll make the first laps a little bit treacherous. You have to be very patient, be very careful. There is not much standing water. If you take a look around the track, it is mostly just damp in spots. We did have a little bit of a storm blow through about 8 o'clock this morning, but you can see dry spots opening up. So if you go to a full wet setup, the tires, the compound, a little bit softer. The Michelin tires tend to hold up very well, but I mean, you're asking a lot if you're driving on a dry track with a full wet setup. So these drivers will likely gamble, go on slicks right now, hope for the track to dry very quickly. And then obviously it'll be the best bet for this timed race. If you go out with a full wet setup and the track dries, then you'll find you'll have very little tire left by the time the checkered flag falls.
Well, it looks like they'll give them a couple of pace laps to have a look at the racetrack, as is the case. There you can see turn 1, a lot of dry pavement going into turn 1. Meanwhile, some of the other sections a little bit more damp. But as you said, things are expected to dry up nicely here over the next hour or so. And I think we'll be looking at sunshine raining down on this racetrack about mid-morning.
Never rains at the racetrack. It's always just liquid sunshine, right? But that is what the forecast is calling for. As a matter of fact, the clouds are expected to clear over the course of the day. No more precipitation expected, which is great news. Of course, you never really know. Forecasters are the only people who are allowed to be wrong and still keep their job. However, it does look like it's encouraging for the weather later on today, because earlier in the week, if you looked at the forecast, it was calling for a pretty damp Sunday. So it's good news. We might get some more showers overnight tonight, but by that time, the racing will long have since stopped here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. So getting some heat in these Michelin tires for these Radical cars, very important at this point. And that's the reason for a couple extra pace laps here. Just trying to build that heat in the tires so you don't go into the first turn, which is probably the driest section of the track at this point. But you want to make sure that the car is going to stick when you head down in there. The backstretch is where we see a little bit of the spray still from these Michelin tires coming out of the back end of these cars.
Well, we've been here long enough, David, to know that at times you will get portions of this racetrack that are quite wet and others that are dry, and that's what makes it challenging. And even here this morning with the racetrack drying out, as you said, that turn 5 Moss Corner hairpin and all the way up the back straightaway. Looks like we've got a fair bit of moisture still there, but looking pretty dry in turn number 1. The lights have been turned off on the Corvette pace car as the field Charles Robin in the 105, lining up alongside of that 67 Bruce McIntyre, the lone car here in the Platinum class, as they swing into turn number 9, looking for a start.
So Charles Robin, the orange and white number 105, will lead them out of turn number 10. The field nicely lined up 2 by 2. A little bit of space in between them. They're going to be very careful going into turn number 1 as we see the green flag to start things off here on Sunday. And Charles Robin gets a great jump into turn 1. He'll lead by himself down into 2.
Pretty much single file, although at the back of that field, they were going 3 wide through turn number 1. It's yesterday's race winner in the Pro 1340 class, the 105 of Charles Robin, leading here on the opening lap. Battle going on for second and third here, involving the 20 of Austin Riley and the 99 of Alan Shaw.
Look at how careful the 67 of Bruce McIntyre is being here on this opening lap. He is the lone entry in the Platinum class here in this Radical Series. And what that means is his car has extra horsepower, but it also carries extra weight too. So it may not be as nimble in these changing track conditions at this point. As a matter of fact, in the post-race press conference yesterday, Alan Shaw called the 67 a bit of a snowplow. It's really fast on the straightaways, but it does struggle a little bit in the turns. So obviously with a damp track as we have right now, Bruce McIntyre wants to be a little extra careful, and that's why he is currently dropping back through the field.
Things starting to tighten up there for second and third. The 105 of Charles Robin, your race leader. Alan Shaw in second. Austin Riley is third. As a little bit further back, we look at the fight between the 77 of Robert Burgess and the 7 of Brad Baker, who has moved up. So as they go through here, that is the Austin Riley car in the third place spot. Looking at the lap times compared to what they were running here yesterday, they are about a good 20 seconds, at least in the early going, as many of these drivers being a little bit conservative in terms of their pace, hoping this racetrack dries up towards the end of the event and they'll be able to push it a little bit stronger.
And you can see the track itself is starting to show that it is starting to dry. So as the temperature builds in these tires, that'll help lift the moisture out of the asphalt and give them a dry racing line sooner rather than later. As we have one car sideways on the exit of turn number 3. I believe that's the 7 of Baker, who was running with Robert Burgess. So Baker was in 5th. The car's still moving, no visible damage to the number 7. And just a local caution at this point. He's trying to refire and get things going as the field now racing up into turn 5.
Some great racing going on a little bit further back. Jim Hallman in the 8, 81 Lee Chapman, who is in the 8th place spot, 93 Blair Gibson, and 73 Peter Dyke. They've been going back and forth. There you see that 8 car that is sitting up there in the 7th place position, but the rest of the spots, the 7-6 drivers all locked together. I think that goes all the way back to Doug Allingham in car number 33. Big pack of cars battling for positions at the tail end of the top 10.
And they're battling hard, but as we've mentioned a number of times, they're also being very careful as the 7 of Baker has managed to refire and get back into the fray. Of course, he's well down the racing order right now, but Charles Robin continues to lead in the 105. Alan Shaw, who finished on the podium in the 99 yesterday, still holding on to second, so he's improved his starting position by 1. Austin Riley rounds out the podium as it stands right now here in the FEL Motorsports Radical Invitational. But the battle definitely a little bit deeper in the field, really from the 8 of Hallman, who currently runs in 5th, on back. McIntyre is in the Platinum class in the 67, ahead of the 81 of Lee Chapman. Peter Dyke in the 73 is in 8th. Blair Gibson in the 9th spot in the 93, and then Doug Allingham in the 33 rounds out the top 10.
There is your race leader working up the Andretti straightaway, Charles Robin in car number 105, taking that win here yesterday over Austin Riley and Alan Shaw, and right now it is Shaw who has got the position on Austin Riley as they work up the back straightaway. That battle that's still going on, led by Jim Hallman in car number 8 in 5th, but McIntyre in that Platinum class car is 6th. 7th is the 81 of Lee Chapman, 8th is 73 Peter Dick, 9th 93 Blair Gibson, and 10th is Doug Allingham in car number 33. He's all part of that 7 or 8 car freight train that right now is fighting out of turn 9 coming into 10.
Great little move by the 73 Peter Dyke to get around the 67 Bruce McIntyre. Used the exit of turn number 8 and then dove to the inside in turn number 9 and managed to make that car stick. So McIntyre slides back a little bit. Again, the car with the most horsepower, not necessarily able to use all of that horsepower here on a drying track, but we do see a drying line now, especially out of turn 1 down towards turn number 2. The wettest area of the racetrack now is probably the entrance to turn number 5, but the driver is able to get around here very well. We're seeing even dry lines. Oh, and as I say that, in turn number 3, we got 2 cars. One sideways manages to gather it back up, then Allingham in the 33 goes sideways to try and avoid, but the 93 again goes for a slide.
Indeed, that is got to be a bit of an issue there on the racetrack. Portions dry and others wet. And right now, that 33 car of Doug Allingham, who had been running in 9th at the end of that previous lap, will get it fired and continue. We'll see if the 93 car, no, that 93 car is up against the wall. Blair Gibson, who had been running in 8th, but Gibson will get it going. There is some debris and gravel that's been thrown up on the racetrack on the inside, but all those cars rolling again, so we stay green.
And that's the issue with areas of the track that are drying a little bit quicker than other areas. You feel like Superman when you get a dry patch of pavement and you're able to stick your car and it feels like it would under sunny conditions, and then you go into a next turn and it's still a little bit damp, so you can't necessarily push it as hard as you did. And it appears as though that's what happened with the 93, Blair Gibson. He started to slide in turn number 3. The other drivers jumped hard on the brakes and spun to avoid. The good news, no visible damage to any of those cars, and they're all able to carry on. Best news, we're still under green, so no full course caution. It was just a local caution, but as you mentioned, Pat, some gravel kicked up on the inside of turn number 3, so that'll be a surprise for the race leader, Charles Robin, as he comes on scene.
Charles Robin in car number 105, the race leader on his way up the back straightaway. The lap times continue to fall. That previous lap for Robin, the race leader in car number 105, 1:35.244. Austin Riley, car number 20, in second. Third is the 99 of Alan Shaw, but they are 9 and 12 seconds back of the race leader respectively. 77 Robert Burgess in fourth. Fifth is the 8 of Jim Hallman as he continues to lead that big pack of cars for positions in the top 10. Sixth is the 73 of Peter Dyke. 67 Bruce McIntyre up into seventh. The 81 of Lee Chapman, 8th. 35 Andre James up into 9th, and Brad Baker, car number 7, rounds out your top 10.
And with damp track conditions here too, the crew at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park did a lot of upgrades over the course of the pandemic. While we didn't have any racing here in 2020, they definitely went to work. You'll see a lot of new asphalt patches in different turns around this track, and that's great in the dry. The competitors saying it offers them a lot of extra grip, a lot of extra traction. When you're in the wet, brand new asphalt, not necessarily the best as far as traction goes, so a lot of the oils start to come up a little bit, so it makes it pretty tricky. When you get the older pavement in spots still around this track, that'll absorb the water a little bit quicker and dry up quicker as well.
Alan Shaw through the Moss hairpin. That car a little bit twitchy as he tries to find the traction. And now up through the gearbox, these Suzuki Hayabusa 1340cc power plants. And he is running at the moment about 4 seconds back of Austin Riley. But the lap times continue to tumble here. The fastest lap of the race belongs to our race leader, Charles Robin, at 1:33.477.
Oh, a big off. And it is the 67 of McIntyre, heavy into the tire wall, and I believe that's turn 4.
Yep,
actually got up in the air after making contact with the tire wall in the 67. Heavy damage to that car. Full course caution, obviously.
Indeed, we go to the full course yellow. That is a very fast turn coming under the bridge at the entrance into the chute that takes you up into Moss Corner, and he must have hit one of those damp spots. The car slides off into the tire barriers, and there is debris on the racetrack, and a good portion of the bodywork on that Platinum Class Radical Cup entry is all over the grass over there. There you can see the rest of the field going through. Charles Robin, the 53 car that of Don Dagenet that's currently being shown in the 13th position, going through along with Austin Riley in car number 20. And there's the 99 of Alan Shaw going down through the chute up into Moss Corner. So, David, I think this is going to be a bit of a lengthy delay. We're on the 40-minute time limit on this race, but we see the first of the service vehicles moving into position. So this will be probably an extended cleanup period before we can line the cars back up behind the Corvette pace car and get set to restart this one.
That will, and you can see the tire marks where the 67 went off the track. It looks like he just went straight, really, leaving the racing surface, and then once you get on the grass, obviously wet grass, not good for trying to slow these race cars down, so he probably picked up speed before he made contact with the tire wall. When he did, he made contact, so essentially drove in on an angle, headfirst into the tire wall with the right front corner making contact first. It bounced and spun the car, actually lifted it up off the ground. And now you can see Bruce McIntyre is being helped out of that race car, which is the best news of the day so far, because that was a very, very heavy impact.
Well, these are certainly very well-built race cars, a very strong chassis, but that's the best picture we can see here on this Sunday morning. Bruce McIntyre in that Platinum Class getting out of the car, evidently took a pretty good lick, but the driver is out and taking off his gloves, talking to one of the medical personnel down there, but a lot of cleanup to be done over there in turn number 4 as he was mixing it up. I think he was in the pack of Pro 1340 cars, starting with the 8 of Jim Hallman, and they've been going back and forth. Don't believe there was any contact there. He just got into a portion of the racetrack that didn't provide the traction, and then that front end of the car just pointed towards the tire wall.
Yeah, these cars do have a lot of downforce built into them. You can see the big tail wing and also a big front splitter on the front end of these race cars. But when you get into a wet track situation, you get offline just a little bit. You can have all of the downforce, all of the aerodynamic aids available, but slick tire on wet track is not necessarily going to stick that well, and it appears as though that might have been what happened to the 67 of McIntyre, but just a heavy, heavy hit. And you can see the drivers coming through now behind the pace car, and the cleanup continues as the flatbed arrives on scene. But I think you're right, Pat. I think this is going to be a little bit of a lengthy cleanup, but we're still early on in this race, so there's still lots of time and lots of laps left to be completed here.
Well, in fact, the clock showing a little over 13 minutes gone by, so I would think 7 or 8 minutes conservatively to get things squared away. So probably looking at about a 20-minute restart once we are set to go back to green. Now in the paddock, our next race on the schedule set to come up here at 10 o'clock this morning. That's in about 45 minutes from now. As we look off to the west, it is looking a little bit brighter. Hopefully we've seen the last of these light rain showers. We had some heavier rain overnight, both in Toronto and here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. The last of the significant showers around 8 o'clock this morning. But as we look over between turns 9 and 10 outside of our broadcast booth, there's a lot of dry pavement showing there. So hopefully the clearing and the drying up of the racetrack will continue, and all of the Toyo Tires F1600 championship cars are going to be on slicks for their third race of the weekend coming up at 10 o'clock this morning. And then after that, the NASCAR Pinty Series cars set to qualify. Hopefully we got a completely dry racetrack for that, and they'll be on the General Tire slicks.
Yeah, for sure. I think at this point, it's just up to the driver ability now is to keep the cars underneath them going to a wet tire with just watch those tires peel off over the several laps. It wouldn't take very long, realistically. You'd see the drivers dive off and try and catch puddles as they do if they make the wrong tire choice. But if you're brand new to watching the FEL Motorsports Radical Invitational here today, and you think, wow, those cars are pretty unique. They are very unique, as a matter of fact. They're essentially a spec car, so all the cars that are left on the track right now are all the same as far as packages go. Some have a little differing chassis, but essentially they're all the same. They all weigh under 1,300 pounds race ready, and all come with about a 210 horsepower Hayabusa, as you mentioned, 1,300 horsepower, or 1,300 cc engine under the bonnet behind the driver in these cars. So it is very much a shrunk down prototype car that you would see racing here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park or places like Le Mans or Sebring.
Field winding its way off at turn number 3 behind that Corvette pace car. Here's how they run under the full course yellow. About 16 and a half minutes into this scheduled 40-minute run in the FEL Radical Cup Canada race. They go by the cleanup. Looks like the car is up on the flatbed. They'll check over the racetrack to make sure they've got all of the debris picked up, but maybe another 5 minutes or so and we should be set to go. So under the full course yellow, Charles Robin, 105, your race winner yesterday, is your leader. At the line, he had opened up almost a 10-second advantage over Austin Riley in car number 20, who sits in second. Riley finishing second yesterday in race 1. Alan Shaw is currently third. He was third in race 1 yesterday. So they pretty much picked up right where they left off from yesterday's race 1. Fourth is 77 Robert Burgess, who was fourth yesterday. And then currently rounding out the top 5 is the 73 of Peter Dyke. He is in fifth, ahead of Jim Hallman in car number 8, who is sixth. The 81 of Lee Chapman in seventh. Eighth is the 7 of Brad Baker. Ninth is 35 Andre James. 10th is veteran Doug Allingham. And then in 11th, 93 Blair Gibson, who was one of the spinners up there in turn number 3 a little bit earlier, but he was able to continue, although losing a bunch of positions on the racetrack. And then in 12th is the other car still running on the racetrack, the 53 of Don Dagenet. 67, of course, will be a DNF. I don't think he's completed enough laps to be scored as a finisher. I think you've got to get 50% of the laps completed. And then the one car that is on pit road, and he has had a difficult weekend, Robert Calisi in car number 80 on pit road, and he is about 4 laps down here at the moment.
So bent up number 67 of McIntyre goes back to the paddock area, so the track is clear. Final checks being done right now, so we should be able to go back to green very shortly. But what this full course caution does is really gives the 77 of Robert Burgess, Peter Dyke, Jim Hallman, that field. They were all battling in a group of about 5 cars. However, they were about 5 or 6 seconds back of the top 3 racers. So Charles Robin, Austin Riley, Alan Shaw had been able to open up a bit of a gap on the rest of the field. But what that does is it puts the 77 right under that rear wing of the number 99 of Alan Shaw when we go back to green. So Burgess now, who's sort of stuck in traffic but then got free, is almost given a free pass to battle here now for a podium position.
And the other thing, during this full course yellow, the cars circulating the racetrack, it does continue to drive, particularly that turn 5 and back straightaway area, starting to see some dry patches there. And as we take a quick check over our shoulder, looking a little drier here through turns 9 and 10.
I don't want to jinx it, but I see blue sky, Pat. So I'm going to say the sun is coming. So definitely don't tuck your sunscreen away too far. And if you're thinking about coming out to Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, definitely going to be a beautiful day and lots of racing left to come here today. as we start off with the FEL Motorsports Radical Invitational.
And here is that Corvette pace car pulling onto pit road. Charles Robin out of turn number 10 on the start-finish straightaway, and the green flag flies in the flaggers stand. We're back racing in the FEL Radical Cup Canada Invitational.
And you can see the 93 pulling up and out of the way of the race leaders. That was a car that was trapped a lap down, Don Dagenet, so he didn't want to get mixed into that lead group battle. Austin Riley got around going into turn number 1, as did most of the rest of the field. Riley, Shaw, Burgess, and Peter Dyke still your top 4 and 5, actually.
They work up into turn number 3, positions being swapped around here. I believe that was Baker in car number 7, who may have moved around that 81 of Lee Chapman. But here again on this opening lap of the restart, back up into Moss Corner, and Burgess closing on Alan Shaw into turn number 5. Charles Robin has certainly opened up several car lengths on Austin Riley in car number 20. He had clearly the fastest lap prior to that full course yellow, 1:33, and the next fastest driver had been Austin Riley in the number 20 car, and Robin has already stretched out a pretty good lead here on this first lap after going back to green.
And Alan Shaw has some company in his mirrors in the 77 of Robert Burgess. Similar sight to what we saw in yesterday's final, race number 1. The number 99 and 77 battled hard throughout the last half of that entire race, but Charles Robin said in the press conference yesterday upon winning race number 1 that he'd never been to Canadian Tire Motorsport Park before. It was his very first visit. So they asked him, what do you think of the track? And obviously he loves it, but a talented karter, as a matter of fact, still racing shifter karts in his native Quebec, and also a driver coach as well. So jumping into these Radical cars for the first time and finding a very, very comfortable seat, and very comfortable here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, as he opens up another 3-second lead over second place Austin Riley.
And also things starting to tighten up here, I think, for 4th and 5th. Between Burgess in the 77 car and Peter Dyke in car number 73. The race leader, Charles Robin, and that orange 105 machine out of turn 5C. He heads up the back straightaway, trying to find as dry a patch of pavement as he can. Austin Riley continues to give chase, but right now he is about 3.5 seconds back of the race leader, and then a battle shaping up here for the final podium position between the 99 of Alan Shaw and 77 Robert Burgess.
But these cars are definitely a good stepping stone in the racing ladder in the sports car world. Austin Riley, as you know, fans here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park have heard that name before in the Nissan Micra Cup. He's stepped into the Radical Series for the first time here and done very well. As a matter of fact, last year was his first year in a Radical car, and done very well, looked very much at home as he continues to climb the racing ladder. So for drivers looking to move up and get into bigger, faster race cars, this is a great step in the ladder moving up that system.
David Bradley, great battle going on here in the top 10, involving the 8 of Jim Hallman, who is in 6th, 7th Brad Baker, who is 7th, and 81 Lee Chapman. That is a great 3-way battle. It's just now moving up into turn number 3. It is the 8 of Hallman, and it looks like they are closing in as well on 73 Peter Dyke. So all of a sudden that has become a 4-way fight down through the chute and up into turn 5, and they have caught that 77 car of Burgess. So now it is 5 cars locked together in a train of these Radical Cup runners up out of turn 5C. They work up the back straightaway. So as the track dries out, these drivers starting to push the limit, and we've seen the fastest laps of the race here in the last lap. In fact, Austin Riley, a lap at 1:31.713. He is starting to approach the lap times of the race leader, and then in back of those drivers, we've got a war here for 4th.
Jim Hallman tried to the outside of the 73, Peter Dyke couldn't make it stick in turn number 8, but you're very right. These drivers are so close, and they managed to reel in the 77 of Robert Burgess, who, if you remember, not 2 laps ago was right underneath the back wing of the number 99 of Alan Shaw. So he's fallen back into this dice as drivers take a variety of different lines through turn 1, trying to find where their car works best in tricky changing conditions here during the second race of the weekend for the FEL Radical Invitational.
And all of a sudden, they are all over Burgess into turn number 3. Brad Baker, that white number 7 car, tried to get inside of Jim Hallman in car number 8. Couldn't get it done as these cars are going to go side by side through turn number 4. There's the 73 of Peter Dyke ahead of Hallman in the 8th. Brad Baker's in 7th. And then the 81 car, part of that battle, Lee Chapman, who is 8th as they work up the Andretti straightaway, and that racetrack really starting to dry up in a hurry. The lap times continue to tumble. Austin Riley now with the fastest lap of the race. He has moved to within 2 seconds of the race leader, Charles Robin, and certainly Riley with more experience here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park than the racetrack rookie, Charles Robin.
As a matter of fact, Riley's last lap 2 seconds quicker, or almost 2 seconds quicker than your race leader, Charles Robin. Now, Robin answers with a 1:29.1 himself compared to a 1:29.0 for Austin Riley. So Riley continues to chip away at that lead built up by the driver in the 105, Charles Robin. But keep an eye on the 20, sitting in second spot. That Spark Power backed entry is coming. Austin Riley is moving, but will he have enough time to catch?
They're only running about 7 seconds a lap slower on this drying racetrack than they ran in the completely dry track yesterday. Out of 5B, your race leader in that orange 105 machine, Charles Robin, his first weekend here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, and right now he's got his hands full as the 20 of Austin Riley tries to run him down on that Andretti straightaway, and it does look as though Riley is closing. He got a great drive out of the Moss hairpin, and we'll see whether or not the lap times that were at 1:29, whether in fact they've been able to shave a second or 2 off what they turned on that previous lap. Here's your race leader out of 9 into 10 on the start-finish straightaway. Charles Robin has led every lap so far.
And that could be just a change in setup for the drivers in first and second. Maybe Riley went with a little bit of firmer setup, knowing how quickly this track can dry if we don't get any more precipitation. Obviously, local track knowledge. Riley has many more laps on this track than Charles Robin, as you mentioned, Pat. But maybe Charles Robin went a conservative setup, a little bit softer, hoping to bite a little bit harder on a wet track. And now as this track starts to dry, it's Riley's car who gets a little bit stronger as he continues to bite into the lead just a little bit. Now about 2 seconds that last time past the stripe. But we have a great dice for 5th on back. Jim Hallman, the 73 of Peter Dyke, Brad Baker, Lee Chapman, all involved in this one. Nearly contact between Dyke and Baker as they make their way through turn 3.
That Dyke number 73, the black car in that group, got passed by Hallman, who's going right after Burgess. Baker also tried to get around that black 73 of Peter Dyke, wasn't able to do it as he turned away the bid. And then it's the 81 car of Lee Chapman who is running in 8th. So this is a 5-car battle going on for 4th all the way back through 8th. Meanwhile, up front, Charles Robin, number 105, your race leader. Austin Riley 2nd, Alan Shaw in 3rd.
Hats off to the driver in the 8th, the black and gold entry of Jim Hallman. He's improved his position on track by 6 from the race start earlier on today. So he's really been a driver on the move here this morning, and he looks to continue improving his position as the 7 of Baker works around the outside in turn number 9, and he will pick up a position around the 73 of Peter Dyke. So Brad Baker now moves up into 6th position, pushing the 73 back to 7th.
Robert Burgess with his fastest lap of the race, 1:29.995. Burgess opening up a little bit of breathing room on that chasing pack of cars, and he is closing on Alan Shaw. That last lap, Burgess was a couple of seconds quicker than Shaw, so this entire group are closing in on the third place runner at the moment. So Shaw in car number 99 being reeled in for that third place position as they work down into Moss Corner.
Baker shadowing the 8 of Hallman into turn 5A and B as they make their way out and onto the Andretti straightaway. You can see a very clear, dry line now as they make their way down that long straightaway. But back up at the front, Austin Riley has clicked off another fastest lap of the race, sitting in second position. So the 20 is now into the 128.3s. That last time past the flag stand, that's compared to a 128.4 for Charles Robin. So not much of an advantage for the 20 of Austin Riley, but he continues to cut into that lead just a little bit. Still around 2 seconds, though, so you'll need to do a lot more or hope for a mistake from your race leader in the 105, Charles Robin.
Fastest lap of the race to the 20 car of Austin Riley, 1 minute 27.332, and David, he's moved to within 1.8 seconds of the race leader, Charles Robin. So Austin Riley continues to push the pace. The two cars work down under the bridge through turn 4 and in a Moss Corner. And as we check the clock here, we've got only about 8 minutes to go. And all of a sudden, we've got an evolving battle shaping up here for the win after Charles Robin in his very first FEL Radical Cup race here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park took the win yesterday. And we've also got a battle here for third as Robert Burgess is all over Alan Shaw in turn 5B.
Burgess had fallen back into that battle between about 5 cars not too long ago. He was able to separate himself from that dice, and now here comes the orange and black number 77. Great run down the Andretti straightaway, post to the outside on the 99 of Alan Shaw. Similar scenes to what we saw yesterday. And now he's looking for a way by. Shaw will move to the outside to take the normal racing line. Burgess down low. He has a dry passing line in turn number 8, but the door closed across the nose of the 77, so he'll tuck back in line through 9 and 10.
Boy, the lap times continue to tumble. Austin Riley, 1 minute 26.441. That race for third coming to the line. And Burgess all over Alan Shaw as they complete lap number 18. And just about everybody up front in that minute 26, minute 28 range as we come up here now on a little less than 7 minutes to go.
Well, Alan Shaw sitting in third place. Remember, he stood on the podium just yesterday. He's going to try and make that 99 car as wide as humanly possible in these final few minutes of this FEL Radical Invitational, but Charles Robin at the front now with a 2.5 lead over the 20 of Austin Riley. Remember, not too long ago, that lead was about 3 seconds, double of what it is right now. So Austin Riley really has the bit between his teeth, and he is coming as the leader now into lap traffic. Dagenet just ahead of your race leader, and that forces the 105 out to the outside in turn number 8.
And there goes Austin Riley. He just stuffed it on the inside of Dagenet into turn number 9, and I think it was Robin who got the worst of that run past Dagenet. It's down to just a second as they work into turn number 1. That Spark Power number 20 entry of Austin Riley is on the charge. Down into turn number 2, it's less than a second separating first and second.
You can be faster than the cars, the lap down cars that you're catching, but you need a little bit of luck on your side as well, because if you catch them in the wrong spot, then it will cost you. And as a matter of fact, it cost Charles Robin in the 105 about a half second to Austin Riley that time as he caught the 53 in turn number 8, had to move to the outside to make a move past Austin Riley, ducked to the inside in turn number 9 and managed to gain a huge piece of real estate on your race leader as the 7 of Baker. Yeah, moves around the 8 of Jim Hallman, so that's into the top 5. So Baker now up inside the top 5 in the white number 7.
And Burgess still continues to put the pressure on Alan Shaw. This has been a monumental battle involving these cars. Baker in that white number 7 entry now ahead of Hallman in the 8th. Then it's 73, Peter Dyke in that black 73 car, followed by the 81 of Lee Chapman in 8th. 33, Doug Allingham is 9th. Andre James 35, 10th. 11th is 93, Blair Gibson, and the only other car on the racetrack is that 53 of Don Dagenet. But the battle for third, as good as the race for the lead. They're coming through turn number 9. Alan Shaw holding on to third, but here comes Burgess in that orange number 77 entry. It is less than a second as they work back to the line to complete what will be lap number 20.
It's half a second at the front of the field, too, between Charles Robin and Austin Riley. 5/10 of a second, as a matter of fact, between those two drivers. And as you mentioned, Alan Shaw and Robert Burgess also covered by half a second, but Riley is pushing it into turn number 5. You saw him wiggle a little bit under braking as he tries to get every ounce out of that number 20. He smells blood right now. He is so close he can taste it. Might even catch a lick of the draft down the Andretti straightaway.
Well, let's see which one of the drivers got the better run off of 5B. That determines your speed up that Andretti straightaway that's really dried out in the last few laps. But it is still Charles Robin looking to do the double here this weekend after winning our opening FEL Radical Cup Invitational. They'll go by that 53 car of Dagenet up the back straightaway, and a change in that third place position. Robert Burgess has moved up into third. Alan Shaw now in fourth. And does Shaw have an answer for Burgess, who has grabbed that final podium spot?
And there's another good example of catching a lap car at the wrong time and in the wrong place. That's exactly what Alan Shaw did. He had to go to the outside on the exits of turn 5 down the Andretti straightaway, and it was Burgess who was able to take the normal racing line and get around both the 99 and the lap car as they powered down the straightaway. So now Burgess in third spot, but the battle at the lead for top spot persists. That time Charles Robin's that fastest lap of the race, just a little bit quicker, about 0.3 of a second quicker than the 20 of Austin Riley. So as Riley turns up the pressure for the lead, Charles Robin is able to respond.
Remember, Robin was dominant here yesterday in taking the win in race number 1. Little different track conditions out here this morning, but for a driver who only got on this racetrack here on Friday for the 2 30-minute practice sessions, he is a quick learner as he continues to hold off the much more experienced Austin Riley. Battle continues here a little bit further back. The 8 car of Jim Hallman trying to hold off the 81 of Lee Chapman as they continue to go at it. Race for that lead back into turn number 1. And that time by Charles Robin has turned an even quicker lap, a minute 25.273. So Robin has found a little bit more pace once he saw Austin Riley there in his mirrors, and right now he's managed to hold him off. But here comes Riley. He has also really picked it up here with less than 2 minutes to go.
Now Riley very good through turn 2 and turn 3, able to close that gap a little bit more. It looks like Charles Robin is a little bit quicker in turns 8, 9, and 10, but now Riley is right there in turn 5, and Robin slips up just a little bit side by side on the exit of turn 5 down the Andretti straightaway.
Out of 5C, they're still side by side. Robin will pull ahead by about a car length, but for a fleeting moment, Austin Riley had the lead in 5B. Now he'll tuck in right up under the rear wing of that orange number 105. Radical Cup runner off the end of the back straightaway into turn number 8, and Robin will maintain about a 4 car length lead as they are going to be coming up here. We'll check the flagger stand, but that last lap flag is going to be out. Yes, it is. Less than a lap to go as the front running 2 cars hit the stripe and put lap number 23 up on the board. This is going to be a 24 lap run. But David Bradley, incredible racing here for the lead.
Watch Riley now through turn number 2. This is where he's been so much better than the 105. He closes that gap right up underneath the back wing of your race leader. Riley ducks to the outside. He's going to try and diamond off turn number 3 and get a run to turn 4. Probably his best shot will be in the entrance to turn number 5 as they're still nose to tail for the final time through turn number 4.
Through turn 4, up in a Moss corner for the final time. Riley tucks right in, takes a look on the inside into 5B. He'll pull up alongside, but Charles Robin will turn back the bid for the lead by Riley. Now he'll try to chase and grab that orange 105 lead car up the Andretti straightaway. Can he get close enough to make a run going into the top of the S's? Right now, Charles Robin by about 3 car lengths off the end of the Andretti straightaway into turn number 8.
Riley a little bit to the outside. He's going to try and carry as much momentum as he can through turn number 8. 9 and 10 may be passing opportunities for the 20. Austin Riley looks on the inside of turn 10. Not enough as the 105 will lead him back onto the front straightaway. Charles Robin will take the win, followed home by Austin Riley. But that was a close one. 0.4 of a second at the line for your race winner, Charles Robin. And it looks like the 77 of Robert Burgess will be able to hold off the 99 of Alan Shaw as he comes off at turn number 10 for the final step of the podium for the driver of the 77.
Unbelievable run here for Charles Robin. I think on that last lap, Riley tried that move into 5B, was right up alongside, but when you're on the outside, you got the better run onto the Andretti straightaway going through 5C, and Robin able to hold off Riley. He gave it one final shot in turn number 10, just not enough room to make the pass there. And Charles Robin, this is a Cinderella story, comes here to Canadian Tire Motorsport Park for the first time, got in the race car on Friday, and has turned in the double here, winning yesterday's opening FEL Radical Cup Invitational. He comes back here on a drying racetrack to hold off an absolutely hard-charging Austin Riley, and full marks to Robert Burgess. He's been racing at this track for decades now, able to get around Alan Shaw late and grab that third place spot. Shaw will finish in 4th. Brad Baker in car number 7, a solid drive for him to finish in 5th. And at 73, Peter Dyke in 6th. 7th goes to the 8 of Jim Hallman, who was part of that great 5-car battle just inside of the top 10. Then the 81 of Lee Chapman in 8th. Doug Allingham in the 33 9th. Blair Gibson 93 10th. And then Andre James will finish 11th. Don Dagenet back of him in 12th, and then the 2 DNFs, Bruce McIntyre. I think Bruce is going to be okay. He would have been checked over by the medical personnel after taking that hard hit into the tire walls at turn 4. And the driver who spent most of the race on pit road and will be a DNF, Robert Calisi in car number 80. David Bradley, an exciting race, not only for the lead for 3rd. We had that 5-car battle involving the likes of Baker and Hallman and Chapman. Just some great racing out here to kick off our Sunday.
Absolutely, and great respect shown between the top 2 drivers as well. Fighting each other hard, but a clean fight for the race win. And as you mentioned, Charles Robin coming home the winner here in the FEL Radical Invitational. But what a way to kick things off. A drying track, so tricky track conditions, but the drivers mastered them and put on a great show here as well. Looking forward to all of the day's festivities coming up.